Hi, I hope you are okay. And as promised today, we are talking about strontium. For everyone, well, for anyone that doesn't know me up to now, I'm Maria. I'm a nutritional therapist specialized in bone health, hormones, and metabolism. I use nutrigenetic testing in my approach for a personalized approach, and I am the founder and main administrator of this group, who is over 15,000 people now, and it's been running for about a year or so. And I'm really grateful and very proud of you that you are part of the group and you are keeping it so alive. So thank you so much about that. There have been some discussions about strontium in the group recently, and I thought it would be good to address the issue. There is a much bigger, a much longer discussion on the subject posted on my YouTube and Instagram and also on Facebook. And in this group, if you go into the guide section with Jenny Han, an American pharmacist, where we are talking about strontium and calcium in a lot of detail. So please go and check on my profile, go and check on my Instagram and YouTube, well, or look into the guides of this group, and you will be able to find this information. If not, you can comment below the video and I will send you the exact link. So let's discuss about strontium. Strontium in a supplement form usually comes in the form of citrate. So strontium citrate. Is strontium citrate dangerous for the body? No, it is not dangerous. Is it helpful? No, it's not helpful either. And I'll explain why. Well, not particularly helpful anyway. In our bodies, there is not naturally a lot of strontium. And this is for a reason. If there's not naturally in our bodies, why put it in there? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, but it hasn't been so after so many years that it's harmful. But it's not particularly helpful as well. Because what it does, it may increase bone density. Why? Because it's heavier than calcium and it actually replaces and sometimes even displaces calcium in the bone. And it shows on a DEXA scan as denser. This is the reason why. But does dense bone mean necessarily strong bone? If you have been part of this group for a while, you will know, or you have been following my posts, or you look into real research and what bone strength means. Bone density is just like one piece of the puzzle. There are a lot of other pieces of the puzzle that you need to solve. And if you're looking only on density, then you're just missing the whole picture. And you might end up with fractures at the end of the day, with a lot of pain and reduction in your mobility and reduction in the quality of life, just worsening the quality of your life, especially as we age. So, yes, strontium citrate is not really dangerous, but it's not really helpful because it only focuses on density. And if you don't check the other factors, the other pieces of the puzzle, what happens with your bone markers, what happens with your vitamin D levels, what happens with your calcium levels, what happens with other hormonal issues, for example, parathyroid hormone, what happens with the rest of your hormones, what happens with your digestion and how you absorb food, what happens with your food, are you eating well? First, you start with the basics. Are you eating well? Or is this all junk food and I don't know, whatever, just comfort food all the time with a lot of processed stuff? Do you drink a lot of coffee or tea? Is your life a lot of stresses and maybe some trauma that you need to look at, because that puts you in a catabolic state? And being in a catabolic state, it means that you lose a lot of bone continuously all the time. Do you have a thyroid issue, either Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition, or a thyroid issue that the thyroid is not working properly? Your thyroid is the master gland for our whole of metabolism. Bone metabolism is just part of our metabolism. If the thyroid is not working well, then your bone metabolism is not working well as well. And this is irrelevant to how old you are and irrelevant to your sex if you are a man or a woman, because anyone can have a thyroid issue or an autoimmune condition or any other immune or hormonal or metabolic condition can influence your bones. Diabetes actually can give you denser bones, but not strong. The reason why, it's quite complex, but basically what happens is that it keeps the calcium in the bone, but the bone matrix itself that holds the calcium, the rest of the other minerals together, is not as robust because it's a very inflammatory condition. And how we absorb nutrients is very much regulated by our glucose, well, our insulin levels in the blood. So if the insulin glucose balance does not exist, this is going to affect how you're going to absorb nutrients and especially minerals. So this is why it's not only the bone. When you have diabetes, you might end up with dense bones, but not very strong bones as well. So there's a lot of other things that you need to take into account. What phase in your life you are. If you are a woman and you had a difficult pregnancy or consecutive pregnancies and lactation, that is going to reduce your bone strength and your bone density and your bone strength. So get familiar with the terms, what bone strength is, what both resilience is, and what constitutes that. And it said bone markers, which shows the current loss rate of your bone, which is the vitamin D, which is what happens with your other hormonal profile, what happened with your nutrients. If you have chronic IBS, can also impact your bone health. And all these things, a lot of these things have nothing to do with menopause, have nothing to do with the fact that you are a woman or not. So there's a lot of things that you need to take into account. So strontium citrate can increase potentially the bone density. But if all these other things are not being considered, and if you're not doing something about it, then don't expect that your bones are going to be better and not fractured. That in a lot of their supplements, they do include strontium, but their marketing, in my opinion, is not very clear. They should have made a lot more clear what the role of the strontium is, because the mistake that can be done there by many people, if they're not warned, is that they get the strontium, the bones are getting denser, they see it on a DEXA scan, and they just relax and they don't do anything else. They go like, I'm fine. I don't need to do anything else. I'm really sorry. So even though, like I said, it's not dangerous, even though they're not, the supplement companies, they don't go out there and making any false claims, at the same time, they don't tell you the whole truth. And I'm just not feeling very comfortable about it. We need to know the whole truth. And whole truth is not easy sometimes. And whole truth doesn't make money for some people sometimes. But the truth is what we need to know for our own good, for our own health. So please dig deeper. Do you take any strontium citrate supplements? In my opinion, no. But like I said, if you're really worried about your density, or if you have very low bone density as it shows on the DEXA scan, then yes, you might consider it. But please, just don't relax and just think that you're sorted and you don't need to do anything else, because this is wrong. And it might end up coming back to bite you, actually. You might end up with fractures and pain and lots of limitations in how you live and how you are daily. And you just don't want that. I don't want that. So if you want to take it, take it. In my opinion, probably waste of money. But if you're really worried about your bone density because it's very low, you can take it. But don't forget about everything else that we've just said. And of course, exercise.